So, hi there. This image may seem strange because I should have had a snake but as I read in this thing about Kundalini, it's actually not what it's meant. But anyway, yeah, also in the medicine wheel, we could say higher perspectives is, for example, the cougar or puma in the West. And then there is the hummingbird, and then there is the eagle and condor. Anyways, okay, I will just go on here with the Patanjali if I find it. Let's see how it goes. Maybe it's here now. Yeah, it seems to be here. And as I said, I don't remember what I already read, so I'll just continue with this. And if it's a repetition, that's fine. Then we need it. Maybe. Okay. Maybe. Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga practice. Ashtanga 8-limbed. That is the meaning of Ashtanga yoga. That is, I don't know. Here is a circle with divided into 8 pieces. Then, and in the center, at the center is a self, and then there is yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Yeah, it must come that way because samadhi is the highest. Yeah. So, well, one of the deep truths captured by the 8 limbs is the need to develop the entire spectrum of body and mind as a whole system. Kundalini yoga includes all 8 limbs in each sadhana or complete set. Patanjali identified 8 interrelated aspects of yoga practice sometime between 200 and 600 AD. The 8 limbs are equally essential to steady progress in refining the mind and discriminating the real from the illusory. They are called limbs or paths. No, parts, it says actually. I should have the glasses always. Limbs or parts, yeah, rather than steps to emphasize their integrated nature. Yeah, lovely. The limbs grow a little in relation to each other, allowing the coordinated use of all the limbs. Oh, I should really have the glasses. Then again, I read slower without them, so that's good. So now I read them the other way around from samadhi first. Samadhi means awakening and absorption of spirit in spirit. Dhyana, deep meditation. How interestingly it sounds like Diana almost. Dharana, one-pointed concentration. Pratyahar, synchronization of senses and thoughts. Pranayam, control of prana, life force, or breathing techniques usually. Asana, postures for health and meditation. Niyama, 5 disciplines, and we will get to them. And yama is 5, what does it say? Restraints, I think it says, yeah. Right. This list places the 8 limbs in a ladder-like manner, missing the dynamic aspects of the limbs, but emphasize the nature of the practices from the most gross and accessible ethical behaviors to the most what does it say really? Rarefied and intangible, spiritual and mystical, or mystic merger. And then Yama is obviously that's where you start in that ladder, then at the lowest, although I read them from that part. Yeah. In the West, most popularizations of these techniques tend to emphasize one end or the other of the ladder. Either the body is cultivated without chanting and meditation, or the mind is cultivated through meditation without building physical vitality through exercise. Both lead to imbalances physically and emotionally. One of the deep truths captured by the 8 limbs is the need to develop the entire spectrum of body and mind as a whole system. Kundalini Yoga includes all of the 8 limbs in each sadhana or complete exercise set. Yeah, well, and obviously I have some work to do with the physical. I always wait a second. I have to take off my what is it called, kofta? It got warm here now. It had been raining, so it was a little bit cold, but then it got warm, and so wait a second. So yeah, I should need that for sure. Mm-hmm. So I think it's unavoidable. I do all things that is not that. Yeah, well, let's see now. Yamas and niyamas. At the base of the 8-limbed path are the yamas and niyamas. Yama is choosing to practice moral restraint in external interactions. And niyama is observing daily practices designed to clarify the internal relationship to the self. All right, we will read more about them. Well, yamas, ahimsa, non-hurting. I will read them first, what they are. Satya, truthfulness. Asteya, non-stealing. Brahmacharya, sensory control. I hope I read them right, although I don't almost see them. Aparigrata, I think. No, aparigraha, I think. Non-possessiveness. Well, I think many of these things also go hand in hand with certain teachings in Buddhism. Yeah, they come from the same area there. Right. He calls it the Eightfold Path. I wonder if they also relate to these 8 parts then, or limbs. Let's see now. Anyway, ahimsa, non-hurting, compassion, patience, love for others, self-love, worthiness, and understanding. Well, there is some work to do, I guess. Satya, truthfulness, honesty, forgiveness, non-judgment, owning, what does it say? Owning feelings. That is awesome. Loving communication, letting go of masks. Wow, this is beautiful. I love it. I mean, I guess some of these you can work on your whole life. You won't be perfect, I guess. Asteya, non-stealing, right use of resources, letting go of jealousy, cultivating sense of self-sufficiency and completeness. Wow. Brahmacharya, sensory control, channeling emotions, moderation. Wow. And then aparigraha. Maybe it's just, gosh, can I not? Aparigraha, I think. Non-possessiveness, fulfilling needs rather than wants. Oh, fulfilling needs rather than wants. Yeah, sometimes when we simplify life, I mean, I recognize this now with the little practices I do, that it's easy to think that more or faster or whatever will add value, but it actually distracts. It make us value things less and like lose that center. Yes, yeah. So what we chase sometimes really just take us away from what we seek, what we need. Anyway, niyamas. Wow, the words. I hope I say some right. He says almost like shaucha, maybe purity, anyways, and santosha. Oh, this word. Well, anyway, I will just ignore it. Contentment. Really, I was just thinking about someone. Gosh. Anyways, moving on here, not non-judgmentally. All right. Tapas, purification, zeal, svadhyaya, study, ishvara, pranidhana, devotion and surrender. Okay, these are the niyamas. So first, shatsha, purity, evenness of mind, thought, speech, purity of body, whatever that means. Santosha, contentment, gratitude, acceptance, calmness with success or failure. So, yeah. No, I'm not saying anything more about that. Tapas, purification, zeal, determination, willingness to willingness for practices, right? Svadhyaya, study, reflection, meditation, expanding knowledge. That part I love, I guess. I love most of this, maybe not all. But this is almost craving in my case, I guess. Especially this expanding knowledge thing. Ishvara Pranidhana, devotion, surrender, faith, dedication. All right. The 8 limbs and the 3 minds. The negative mind is mastered by yamas and niyamas. The positive mind is mastered by asanas and pranayama. Pranayam. Mm-hmm. The neutral mind is mastered by pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So we need to reach that to be able to. Actually, when it's described in this Om sign, then there is a jump between first these level of consciousness, which is wakefulness and sleep, and then the dream state is this kind of bow that goes out from those consciousnesses. The mid in between there is the dream, and then there is, I guess, is the point there nirvana. Anyways, I think whatever. There is like a moon shaped thing, almost like a new moon shape, or a sea or whatever. Anyways, there is a jump. The other 3 they are linked together. They are attached to each other. They are constantly there. But to reach samadhi, there will be a jump. It's not a natural movement from those to the next. So I guess that's what it says here also, that we need that to first reach that neutral mind. Wow, still interesting. The negative mind is mastered with yamas and niyamas. Do you remember who they were? Yamas were the 5 restrictions, and niyamas the 5 disciplines, as I just read about now. But they are very, very briefly described here still. But yeah, enough to work with still. Yeah. And the positive mind with asanas and pranayama postures for health and meditation, and control of prana, life force, or breath. Okay, interesting. And the neutral mind, then, when we have reached that, is mastered with pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, meaning control. Pratyahar, it was about synchronizations. Did I even read that? Synchronization of senses and thoughts. Maybe I jumped it. And dharana, one-pointed concentration. Dhyana, deep meditation. And samadhi, awakening and absorption in spirit. And that is something we can't strive to. We can prepare the ground, like so it, our perception or consciousness will make that jump. Interesting. And I wonder how these go together. Everything is linked when you look at this. When you look at any paths, actually, that's so interesting when you have worked with various things. As for, in my case, like the, no, not the one who mowed the lawn again. He was there yesterday. I mean, he must be done now, right? Well, no, they called him because I made the video. No, I'm just kidding. That can't be right. Oh, maybe I have to stop this then and go up and. I mean, really? How much grass can they cut? Or maybe they sent someone else out, and that one didn't know someone was there yesterday. They should look right on the grass. What's wrong with? We will see. Maybe I don't. Okay. Calmness, compassion, whatever was it. Maybe they just. And we will see how it goes. They maybe move along. Maybe not. What the heck? Well, anyways, I wonder how they. Yeah, what I was going to say is that it's linked so much. I mean, the witchy stuff from various cultures actually also, but also Munaki, and which is also connected to all things that is South American, and also the story, at least about it, is that it's also linked to the Himalayan, all kinds of the and Buddhist, the Tibetan. Oh yeah, the silence, lovely. And now I almost want to whisper because of that. Anyway, so yeah, all these paths, but it's not the. I mean, it's very easy to understand because it taps into natural energy flows and so on. So it describes that in various ways, though, as I've said many times now. But in Munaki or in these Andean traditions, they talk about the chakras, for example, as navis, which means eyes. And I actually love that expression because that's what they are. They see, they can perceive. You can tap into things via your or through your chakras. So they are eyes, energy centers, but also energy eyes, let's say. Okay, now I must cough, so I have to pause for a second. Okay, so yeah. Anyways, it's very interesting since these are actually eight part. Yeah, that was what it means. Ashtanga. So, but I would assume they are also related to each of the chakras. It would surprise me very much if they weren't. And the samadhi would be what is called then in monarchy, the 8th chakra, which correlates also to the aura. And so, not sure about this though. I mean, I'm not sure about that they in the yogic tradition see it in the same way, but we will see. The 8 limbs and the 5 gross elements. Earth habits confronted by yamas, the restraint. And how does that even work? Actually, one thing I love with the medicine wheel and Muna Ki, meaning then the energy of love, actually. Muna is love and Ki is she. It's the same as prana. Anyway, in that tradition, you say that you can only heal something from not from the level where it's created or started, but you need to heal it from the level above. And so, this I don't really see how this works. Although it's needed actually in the physical earth, since this is related to the elements then, but still, how to do it? And maybe it's because the cause or the root of that is not at that level. That may be why. But anyway, so because restraints, yeah, if it were that easy. Okay, moving on. Water, emotional impulse guided by niyamas, the 5 disciplines then. Fire, energy and the urge to do, tended by asana, postures for health and meditation. And air, sensitivity and feelings directed by pranayam, by control of prana, life force. Yeah. And ether, the creative inner space, navigated with pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So, synchronization, pratyahar, synchronization of senses and thoughts, dharana, one-pointed concentration, dhyana, deep meditation, and samadhi, awakening and absorption of in spirit. And this deep meditation, I can actually reach that very quickly now, but this have not come easy in a way because I've done lots of practices, various lifetimes probably, but also in this life many years. But it's lovely when I've forgotten how it was to be in that state, and then to touch it, even briefly. That's bliss. I mean, you just want to stay in that. That's fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating how I've forgotten it almost also. Okay, moving on. So, more about the sutras of Patanjali. Patanjali Sutras, a short codification of the practice of yoga, came out of the classical period of yoga philosophy and history, 200 to 800 AD. The Patanjali Sutras were an overview of the goals, philosophy, and structure of a yoga and meditation discipline. They provide a sketch of the effort needed and the progress to be expected in a yoga discipline. They are a map of the process of awakening and realizing the possible human that is in each of us. Wow. As ancient as they are still an excellent foundation for any serious student of Kundalini Yoga. And I was just also thinking about these limbs as they are written in a circle like that. I think everything will, at least if you start on some of those upper practices, you can't probably jump to deep meditation easily, maybe, but breathing techniques, for example, it's in the middle somewhere there, I think. But I think that will still, or maybe that's true with all these limbs. Everything will still leak into the other, so that will like come as a natural result, that you want that, or that you feel that is needed, or that you feel that things aren't needed, certain things that don't benefit you and that are not balanced. At least I think so. The sutras were written, as many are, in short, thought-laden sentences, assumed to be used under the direction of a master. Its brevity is a problem and a blessing. Oh, now it starts to rain again. I love it. Right today when I went out and the whole sky was filled with just gray clouds and it was raining, and I was just, wow, this is the greatest weather. Well, anyway, but then again, the variations is good. I like sunshine too. I guess I like thunder and lightning most. Well, anyway, okay, moving on. Yeah, a great deal is assumed, making its use difficult. However, that allows for a wide range of adaptation to the teachers who use the sutras. Several teachers have written commentaries on the sutras to bridge their practical purposes and audiences. The future emphasizes the importance of a relationship to a teacher and teaching community as part of the process of spiritual practice and growth. There are other texts that list many specific techniques. Most yogis preferred direct cultivation of personal experience and capacity rather than the intellectual enterprise of systemizing, classifying, and analyzing. Well, I love that too, actually, very much. I'm a very curious person. Substantial commentaries that came from intellectual efforts of great scope were rare. Yeah, I say were true. Yeah, were rare. I mean rare. Patanjali Sutras present the efforts of a yogic adept to attempt to trace the central thread of process across the many schools of practice that existed in the early classical epoch, which corresponded to the Christian era in India. They were so well conceived and written that they rapidly became the central authoritative text in the yoga tradition. Patanjali's contribution seems to be mostly that of a systemizer rather than an originator. The true beginning of yoga is always attributed to the womb of being, or the creator. Beautiful. I love it when they say the womb of being instead of the creator. I would really start to use that expression. The womb of being. um, hmm. The sutras are the culmination of the historical development of yoga up to that point. In Hindu stories, Patanjali is said to be an incarnation of Ananta. All right. The thousand-headed ruler of the serpent race. This icon has the job of guarding the deep treasures of the earth. The treasure is the knowledge given by yoga to awaken the possible human, to the ability to manifest the heavens in the earth, and the ability to embody the divine aspects of the self in the profane circumstances of the normal life. Patanjali's name came from his desire to teach and enlighten those of earth. He fell, Pat, from the heavens and landed in the palm, Anjali, of a saintly woman. His mother, Konika, I think it says, or Konika. The reverence given to his efforts and its impact on the tradition of the times is clearly evident. So, Patanjali, so beautiful, he fell from the heavens and landed in the palm of a saintly woman. The palm is Anjali. Right. Okay. The Yoga Sutras themselves consist of 195 aphorisms presented in 4 steps or chapters. The first is, I feel like I still have read this, but I don't know. The first is Samadhi Pada, absorption and higher states of awareness. The second is Sadhana Pada, discipline and practices. The third is Vibhuti-pada, powers and capabilities of the possibly human. Yeah, haven't I read this? I just feel it. Or maybe they repeat it in the book also. And the fourth is Kaivalya-pada, the nature of liberation. Many scholars argue about the proper order of the aphorism in the original unedited text. But taken all together, the current version seems authentic and reasonably complete. The form of yoga that comes from the compendium is usually called classical yoga. There are some differences with this and Kundalini yoga, mostly because classical yoga was intended for monks, people who withdrew from the world for spiritual practice. Kundalini yoga was designed for people in the world, but held very secret though, and just spread from master to master. Anyway, to very few, I think. But yeah. The waves of the mind, the classical yoga system Patanjali described, was meant to include and unify the precepts developed in Samkhya philosophy and in Vedanta. The process of yoga is focused on the need to control the modifications or waves of the mind. We will look into that more. The mind is considered the link between body and spirit or consciousness. It is the habits of the mind that bind us to attachments and duality and in turn suffering. It is also the habit of mind that leads to non-attachment and to the practice of merger with what is real. The mind is a sophisticated tool that can give us liberation and the transcendence of conditional living, or it can give us confusion, ignorance, and bondage. This is the work of the West in the medicine wheel. Tough. Also best. I mean, it's wonderful, but yeah, also it takes a lot sometimes to see through our own limitations, our own projections, our own preconceptions, everything, the illusion. Takes courage and also to not have too fast ego to be able to even absorb that, because otherwise, we couldn't take it in. The mind and body are one emanation of the primal nature, Prakriti. A fundamental property of this nature is constant evolution and transformation. Yeah, never stand still. The result of this transformation is the creation of a multi-level gradation. Not graduation. Multi-level gradation of nature from the most subtle and unmanifest aspects to the most differentiated and gross realm of the 5 senses. Body and mind, the psyche, are considered to be gradations of the same substance produced through three eternal forces, the gunas, as we mentioned previously in last video. Which is then sattva, rajas, and tamas. The mind is divided into functional aspects. Manas, the lower mind and senses and reactions. Ahankar, the ego, ahankar, and buddhi, the discriminating mind or mind stuff, which includes memories, subconscious realms, intellect, and chitta, all other fluctuating waves of mind. So, in this tradition, there is like 4 aspects of the mind: the manas, the mind of senses and reactions; ahankar, the ego; buddhi, which we often think of as the mind, I think, many of us. Discriminating mind or mind stuff, which includes memories, subconscious realms, intellect, and chitta, which is all other fluctuating waves of the mind. The ego is separated from that, interesting enough, in this tradition. The central task of the yoga is to calm those mental functions so that a clear perception of what is real and what is fake or false can arise. To make those ripples on the lake or whatever, to make it calm, so you can see the reflection of it. Okay. This is the central goal. Patanjali attributes the universal suffering witnessed throughout life not to an angry God, nor to any form of original sin or unworthiness, but to ignorance, the lack of the ability to properly discern the real from the unreal, the eternal from the transitory, the essential from the peripheral, and the self from the world of experience, Maya. This is so wonderful. I mean, many actually, I think especially maybe Western, would prefer it to be an angry God or an original sin or unworthiness, because ignorance, I mean, when the egos are huge, first of all, we want to project onto someone that they were the sinners and unworthy, or so that claim that it's right to send someone to hell or whatever. But also because I think this word ignorance is so triggering for egos. Ego wants to be ignorant. I mean, rather everything else, So, yeah. So it's kind of interesting how that have developed in the Western world. Also, those others concepts of stronger because our egos are huge here. Because we are wrapped in layers of mental and emotional habits that cloud our perception, we make choices that are against the self, meaning the higher self, our soul. We initiate sequences of action with long-term pain as their consequence. The moment we do that, we are asleep. We are viewing the moment of choice through the blinders of ego. If we can awaken, we can discern the reality of the choice and stay in alignment with what is. Action in line with the infinite self is called dharma. You act in the right way at the right time. Dharmic action takes you beyond pleasure and pain to ecstasy, beyond lie and hate to love. Beyond like and hate to love, and beyond want and need to duty, commitment, and identity. Interesting that this is also separated here, like the identity and ego are differentiated here. Sometimes they're not. I like to look. I look forward to learn more about how they see it here. In the vision of Patanjali and most Eastern and esoteric traditions, knowledge serves the function of awakening and even redeeming. It is through clarity, intuition, and special forms of knowing, when the mind is refined, that we can transcend suffering and stop the unconscious actions that create problems. The Samkhya and Vedanta traditions were woven together by Patanjali in the Eightfold Path of Yoga. Vedanta and yoga emphasize the use of meditation and other exercises as part of training the mind. He bridged the few critical differences what differences in a manner that gave greater accessibility to the yoga approach in gaining knowledge of the self. Okay. Both traditions recognize the importance of self-knowledge, but classical Samkhya emphasizes pure metaphysical knowledge. The methodology of meditation supports and complements the power of gross... No. I'm sorry. The methodology of meditation supports and complements the power of gnosis, or sacred knowledge. Real knowledge makes us aware that we are more than how we usually perceive ourselves. As we recognize the transitory nature of all experience, we gain non-attachment. Through the practice of yoga discipline, sadhana, we calm the mind, sharpen its functions, and gain discernment to recognize the real, to hear the inner word, to follow the impulse of the heart, the path of Dharma. Okay. Balance of the inner and outer worlds. Kundalini yoga and humanology, concur with Patanjali's integration. Conquer. One departure point, that means conquer. Is that the word? It sounds strange here. Kundalini and you want to conquer. I don't know. Yeah, and anyway, one departure point is a tendency in classical yoga to reject the world and nature as profane or soiled. And therefore also I love this kind of yoga because it doesn't see it that way. Some students take this as a validation of asceticism. Kundalini yoga views nature as the sacred play of the eternal. Wow, I so much love this. It is a creation of God the artist. Or what did we say now? The womb. Yeah, what was it? I must see what I said. I've forgotten it already. Anyways, where was it? Yeah, moving on. I'm going to check that later. I must write it beneath so I can check it. Yeah. It is a final devolution. Devolution. What a word, not the devil. But I mean, what a word. Is this really right? It is a final devolution of the spirit to its densest form. Evolution and devolution. I've never heard that word before. I've heard other words for this in witchy teachings, let's say, where this great spirit of, let's say, Diana, anyways, how this energy, whatever tradition actually, splits itself or differentiates in layers down to the most vast. So this is the same description in a way, but this was a new word for me. But the physical body shares the same elements and qualities that form all of creation. The body should be viewed as a temple full of treasures. Yeah, it really is. Oh, we should treat them better. It has the capacity to influence the mind through breathing and glandular secretion. Careful cultivation of the body aids the project of gaining inner knowledge. Neglect and degradation of the body confuses the mind and creates ill health. Yeah, obviously. Also, in Kundalini yoga, there is a constant balance of health, happiness, and holiness. Therefore, they call this the 3HO. Anyway, the healthy, happy, holy community, or what it's called. Yeah. It is designed to give the practitioner awareness and balance in both the inner and outer worlds. Patanjali emphasizes the need to approach this task with an equal emphasis on practices and attitudes. The practices include the 8 limbs of yoga, mental training, concentration, and breathing. If those are practiced alone, the aspirant is subject to great spiritual ego from accomplishments and special feats of mind and body. Let's see, did I even understand what I said? Yeah, maybe so. Let's see now. The attitudes include, if not the attitudes, the yamas and niyamas discussed below, and the primary attitude of non-attachment to the many aspects of Maya. If only attachment is practiced, the aspirant releases a great deal of psychic energy with no place for it to transform and be expressed. The result is unexpected neurotic patterns, the sudden emergence of the shadow aspects of the personality or other psychosomatic manifestations. With both regular practice and constant attitudes, the path is clear and without problems. Yeah, I totally get that. Wow, so many get stuck in one or the other of these. And also, when it comes to certain drug use and so that is used to open the mind. I mean, that can also be beneficial, I think, in some cases. For example, ayahuasca and so. But when it's practiced in those sacred manners or those who really know what they do out there in the jungle, I don't know. But I also think otherwise this could be then you can reach that non-attachment that could also lead to like you dissolve the identity in such a way, I mean the feeling of it in such a way that it wouldn't be helpful anyway, or would be harmful actually. Anyway, yeah. And very many are also very good at the first thing there, where they practice the 8 limbs of yoga, mental training, concentration, and breathing alone. But this spiritual ego then gets huge. Yeah. And also with these things that come, maybe some have it from the beginning, but or some do for sure, but also those who develop more and more of psychic abilities and so on, sometimes it just adds to the the spiritual ego. Yes, and that is not the path of yoga. So we also need that non-attachment. And I think naturally, personally, who's talking? The ego. Well, anyways, I think personally, I have never been much. I mean, I have less of this pitta energy, although it can flare up and when it does, it's kind of heated. But I have a lot of kapha and vata, which also means that, especially vata, And I try to calm that vata with sometimes food, which then brings my body into kapha mode rather, or ama. Anyway, I think that is really a blessing for me that I never had that. I've had to learn from others what that means, even to be competitive. Or, I mean, I can get myself into that maybe if I push myself to it, but it's really not natural. And so previously I never had that. So when other egos, let's say, were competitive with me, I didn't even understand that what they were doing. I was just being generous and so on with them without understanding that whole play. So I had to learn it and even read it, and even, I mean, luckily there are those who explain it. But I didn't have that. I don't still have that instinct really, but I'm way more aware now of how others' consciousnesses, let's say, or how they function, their minds. And that's good. That's a way better protection in this world. But still, the danger is to dip into that ditch yourself then, and start to use those ways that you know too well. Anyways, interesting. Yeah. So this non-attachment is like pretty well. It depends actually. Then again, when there have been those certain attachments, they are then hyper strong instead. So I don't know about that, but yeah, interesting. Very interesting. This. And this doesn't apply only to yoga, obviously. It applies to anything where people get very good at something or so on, whatever area. Then the ego explodes almost, or it at least becomes very, very large, and then there is no other end for it. I mean, the downfall, when the blow comes, which it always does, there is always, the illusions always get shattered by what's real. So, and then then that's rough for the ego, but that's the win for the soul still. So yeah, so interesting. Okay, the 5 stages of mental refinement. The quality of mental and emotional experience changes as the aspirant guides the mind through the 8 limbs of yoga practice. Patanjali describes five stages of mental refinement. The description reflects the general principle that all emanations of Prakriti are composed of some combination of the 3 gunas: Tama, heavy confusion, lack of clarity; Rajas, activity, energy; Sattva, balance, subtlety, clarity. The qualities of mind reflect different degrees of activity and and combinations of the 3 gunas. The 5 stages of refinement, their description, and the influence of the corresponding gunas follow. First, Niruddha. Sattva is fully expressed, total calm, the transcendent perception of the soul consciousness, or Purusha, is now possible. It is well controlled, can distinguishing false from real. Okay, can distinguish false from real and see the nature of the self reflected throughout the mirror of Prakriti. Beautiful. The second is Ekagra, Sattvic rules. This creates tranquility and calmness, clear perception about the nature of things. The mind is able to manifest its intentions. And the third is Viksipta, Rajas dominates. So the mind is fast, flighty, almost manic. It never rests on one thing nor commits. Often seeks stimulation and information but doesn't analyze. 4. Buddha. Predominance of tamas assures laziness, confusion, sluggishness, ignorance, and even vice. It is a state of dull confusion or stupidity. This is the state of the world. No, I should manifest that. All right. And 5 is Ksipta. Rajas gives the mind a lot of energy. This combined with tamas loses discrimination. The mind is disturbed, irritated, erratic, distracted. Attention is often focused on the wrong things. Right. Well, I could stay on each of these things for a long time also, but I won't. Okay, it's still very interesting also, I think. I'll get tired. Anyways, let's see how long it is. I want to read at least a chapter. Oh, this is quite long, I think. No, it's not. It's actually just one more page right now. Although it feels like I've already read this before. But yeah, I will just do this then. The first 3 steps, because I'm quite tired, obviously. The first 3 states are the normal qualities of the mind that the novice discovers when beginning to meditate. Oh, the words sometimes when I try to read it. Gradually, the first 2 conditions are created and slowly developed into steady states, yeah? In this condition, the many dimensions of capability and extraordinary sensitivity unfold. This process of refinement is discussed by Patanjali both as an increasing unification of consciousness and an incremental purification of mind. Purification removes the disturbing elements of the mind and body. Unification increases the scope of awareness and the integration across many parts of the mind. As the mind is refined, judgment also improves in the sense of discrimination. I hope they mean. The aspirant makes consistent decisions that lead to happiness and growth. The final result is not a psychological state. It is a condition of the mind and a relationship of body, mind, and spirit that frees the soul to create and express without hindrance. The appreciation of refinement disposes the yogi to pay as much attention to the process and quality of thought and emotion as to the content of those thoughts. Wow. It is like the old adage, you can pile scriptures sky high on the back of a donkey and it's still it's still just an ass. I feel like now a little bit like, wow, I have a lot of books here. Yeah, you need to work it or implement it. The the mere recitation of written or book knowledge does not mean the mind has been refined enough to be able to understand, act on, and embody the things being referred to in the abstract. No, that's so true. That's a huge jump there. Okay. The ability to manifest from the abstract to the concrete From the general to the specific, and from the subtle into the gross, is the result of extensive psychoenergetic development and psychological integration. Yeah. The fact that we can represent things abstractly to ourselves is part of our creativity and part of our ability to delude ourselves. Yeah. The mind's capacity to represent things gives us both creativity and self delusion. That is one reason that all spiritual and developmental paths require a teacher, guru, or guide to test the student. Yeah. The job of the teacher is to be sure the knowledge is learned in the heart, in the present, and eternally. Our tendency to appear right or better for others, combined with ambitions and insecurities, often produce false victories and false failures. The teacher keeps the student going past the limitations of the beliefs and experiences, especially the successes of the student. Wow, this is so freaking interesting. Um, yeah, and I feel I'm not saying that I've absorbed or integrated any of those things much, but I feel that with the things that I do practice even more so than this, um, and teach, that's exactly what is needed. Yeah, I mean, those who aren't willing to, not that you poke hard or in a mean way, but you need to sort of, from a gentle place, sometimes, yeah, hold up a quite not comfortable mirror, you know. And it's difficult to do that to yourself. And even when it comes to such things as reading the cards, as I do with tarot and so on, I mean, I can read my own cards and I can understand them pretty well also, but there is this part that want to interpret that what I want, and that's why it's harder to do it yourself. But it's also hard if someone, I mean, if I know others' minds or their mindsets, let's say, where they are at, then I can also understand where that interpretation comes from, rather in them sometimes than a reflection of the situation they, yeah, you know. Okay. This is so interesting, and even those who work in therapy and so on, but they are aware of this, I'm sure, but some of them. Yeah. And also this saying about, I was talking last time about someone that I call TS, and about that. I think teachings, I mean, even a teacher who is not very enlightened and understand things, they can share things so that others that are ready for it really receives it and really blooms from it. I mean, can pick up those seeds that come through someone who even isn't aware themselves. That's fascinating also. And that is something they teach in Buddhist teachings, I'm sure, as well. And that's interesting. I mean, it's not something extreme about that, but sometimes we don't think about that it's not the person, it's the teachings themselves have their own force, you could say, their life force, and it reaches those that they should, that are ready for them, those seeds to be planted there. So for an in-depth study and commentary of the sutras, we can also see how to know God, yoga the yoga aphorism of Patanjali by Swami Prab. Mhm. Pravananda, not something like that, and Christopher Isherwood, Vedanta Press, 1953. Well, this sounds interesting too. Well, not right now anyway. Yeah, this interesting, creative, unlimited mind that can really, and we love those solutions, don't we? Many of us, we really do, because it's also fun, actually, to be attached rather than detached. I mean, I think all of this is play, as it described. We do this for the fun of it, but we forget when we get deep into certain stuff. We forget that this is we playing. We are like having fun here, and then we get drawn into it, so we forget that whole part of it. Okay. The refined mind and Guru Har Krishna. What? It says Krishna. Guru Har Krishna, right? There is a story of a challenge giving to. Yeah, it's actually called that. It's not Krishna. All right. Given to Guru Har Krishna, the eighth of the 10 Sikh gurus who embodied and codified the original Sikh way of spiritual life. He became the guru and leader of the Sikhs when he was only 5 years old. I'm just, my eyes open. Wow. Yeah, okay. The dominant Hindu culture gave great status, to the learned Brahmins who memorized all the scriptures and rules of conduct. Many years of intense study, and scholarship were required for such a position, as well as austerity and spiritual discipline. On a trip to visit devout followers in the city of Delhi, Hare Krishna received a challenge. A well-known Brahmin appeared before the Guru and demanded a debate over knowledge of the Hindu scriptures. He said, "You are young and lack the real experience to know wisdom. I have studied everything written. It is your ability to interpret these writings that we all would look to. I do not think you can do that." Oh, I hope this was not when he was 5. I think it was older guy. The guru looked amused by the situation. Oh, sorry. He offered the Brahmin a respectable seat next to him so the entire gathering could hear the exchange. Rather than debating the Brahmin directly, the Guru asked someone to go outside and find the most dumb and illiterate person in the local village. An illiterate water carrier was found and brought before the Guru. After giving him tasty fruits for his trouble, the Guru challenged the Brahmin to debate the washerman on the interpretation of any scripture he selected. The Brahmin quoted from an Upanishad and gave a spirited and cogent commentary. Oh, yeah. The Guru touched the head of the idiot, with his wooden staff. The washerman spoke clearly, simply, and profoundly. The truth of his statements was obvious. The audience sat in stunned silence. With quotation after quotation, the water carrier bested the Brahmin. He won the debate. Finally, the Brahmin cast himself at the Guru's feet and asked forgiveness for his spiritual ego and blindness to the real source of knowledge. Wow, this was beautiful. The story has many implications. One is that the real knowledge to discern reality and falseness is beyond the immediate sensory experience of the ego. The knowledge that could come even through an illiterate water carrier was always there in the core of his consciousness. The Guru merely unclouded the karmas that let the fog of the unrefined mind keep the water carrier ignorant of his own deep nature. Oh, this is so beautiful. The Brahmin had mistaken thorough content knowledge with a more important task to refine the mind itself. Yeah, rather than if it is only that process that leads to true discernment and the proper use of content knowledge. As in the story, we do not need to learn every fact and idea to have knowledge. We must refine the instrument of knowing, the mind and consciousness, so that whatever we learn will be used with effectiveness, wisdom, and appropriateness. Oh, this is so wonderful, is it not? Wow. Well, I should stop now, I think, and continue another day. But thank you so much for listening. Although I stutter, I should use the glasses. I'm so sorry about that. And also yawning and everything. But bye for now.